Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat, mga kapamana. And we're back on your very favorite heritage webinar series, PAMANA Talks. It's February 12th, the first day of the Chinese New Year, and it's now the Year of the Ox. So kaya kami po sa Group Kalinangan ay bumabati po sa inyo, lalo na sa aming mga kapamanag Sinoy, Kyong Hiwatsai, Jiang Jishang Ruhi. That means in Mandarin, Happy New Year, wishing you happiness, prosperity, and good fortune. Ayan. So, as always, ayan, please don't forget to subscribe to our official YouTube channel at Grupo Kalinangan. You can also follow us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/Grupo Kalinangan, and also follow us on our Instagram and Twitter accounts at Grupo Kalinangan to get updates about our latest happenings and whatnot in heritage. Ayan. Ako po ulit, si Gio Santos. At kasama po natin ngayon ang ating co-host na si Joel Alder pala. Okay, I'm quite na. I'm Joel Aldor. Ayan, nag-switch na kami ng pangalan. At ang kasama ko po,
Hi, Gius.
Ang kasama ko si Joel Aldor. Hi!
Hi, Joel. Hi, everyone. Happy New Year po.
I didn't realize until a few seconds later that I nagpalit tayo ng identity. Yeah, kamusta ka na?
Okay naman. Kamusta ang New Year naman? Ready ka? Nakapula ka pa?
Siyempre, naman. It's I'm wearing a cheongsam, no? Or chipao, no? It's a tradition that my family had.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a tradition that my family had always had ever since I was a kid. We always do celebrate Chinese New Year. Matanong ko lang, Gius, ano bang mo? Chinese zodiac sign mo?
Year of the Dog. Ikaw?
Year of the Dog. Magkasunod lang tayo. Year of the Pig naman ako.
Okay.
Alam mo, ang sabi daw, mga pinanganak sa Year of the Dog, sabi daw, mapagkakatiwalaan, mga tapat, saka mababait. Totoo ba yun?
Depende. Depende sa tao.
Samantalang kami naman sa kami mga pinanganak sa Year of the Pig. Sabi daw nila, kami daw ay mapagbigay, masisipag, at mahabagin. Totoo nga.
Totoo ba yun? Totoo ba yun?
Kaya ako tinanong ko na yung sarili, totoo ba yun? Well, I hope my friends would agree. But, well, sabi daw ang 2021 mas swerte daw para sa lahat ng mga zodiac signs, especially para sa atin, pinanganak sa Year of the Dog and Year of the Pig, no. Sabi daw para sa iyo, eto, magmumukha lang akong Master Hans Chua kunwari. Sabi
Sakit
daw,
sa damit mo.
maraming opportunities ang darating para sa'yo kasi may mga pagkakataon na may tatahakin ka mga bagong landas sa iyong professional and personal
Yeah,
life.
more on professional nga nabasa ko. Ana, di ba? Hopefully.
Yeah. Bueno, hindi lang naman po Chinese New Year ang ating sineselebrate ngayon. No? Siyempre, we're also celebrating Valentine's weekend. Joke. Siyempre, nakapula tayo. No? Tama-tama. Hindi lang yun. Today, of course, we're celebrating a month-long celebration of the National Arts Month, buwan ng sining, no? Kaya naman po ngayon dito sa ating PAMANA Talks, matutunghayan natin ngayong gabi, isa na naman pong kapanapanabik na episode galing po sa isa sa ating mga kaibigan sa PAMANA at sa larangan ng sining ang nagpaunlak po sa aming imbitasyon para mag-lecture po sa atin ngayong gabi. At talaga naman maging masayang episode to para sa ating mga art lovers ngayon. So sino-sino itong mga art lovers natin ngayon? Let's have some let's read some shoutouts here. Shoutout naman galing kay Felix Javier, maayong adlaw, watching from Iloilo. From Cubao, ayan, Isra Malyari. Kumusta po kayo dyan? Sayan Patrona from Kamsur. Ayan, sino pa? Sino pa mga nanonood po sa atin? Juan at Antonio Luna. Why pa pala kayo? Good evening. Ayun pala. Good evening, Leonard Christopher Eduarte watching from Badok, Ilocos Norte. Ayun, ikaw pala yun. Ayan. Also from friends of the GK family, Celsius Wanchon, kumusta po kayo dyan? Miss Ina Cosio, good evening po sa inyo. Of course, ang ating matalik na kaibigan from Tugigaraw, Prince Macarubo from the Cagayan Heritage Conservation Society. Happy Chinese New Year po sa inyong lahat dyan. Sino pa ba? Sino man nagpapa-shoutout dito? Ray de los Reyes from Manila Piñas, AJ Santiago from Pasay, and ang ating kasama si Sharon Bulaklak from Marawi City. Kamusta po kayo? Okay. Kasama rin po natin Miss Celeste Orbe galing Bataan and Monteza Arlene Seville from Marikina City. Ayan. So, gusto rin po natin pasalamatan yung ating mga partners from the different institutions na tumutulong po sa pag-promote ng ating PAMANA Talks. Salamat po sa Angono Cultural Heritage Office, the Angono Rizal, the Cagayan Museum and Historical Research Center, Museo ni Ramon Magsaysay from the NHCP, the Negros Museum in Bacolod, Museo ng Gumaca, the Makati Poblacion Heritage Conservation Project, Tuklas Pilipinas, Bantay Kasaysayan, of course, yung mga kaibigan po natin from Cagayan Heritage Conservation Society and Taguig Heritage Society, and yung mga kaibigan po natin sa Advocates for Heritage Preservation and the Local Historical Committees Network. Ayan. So, bago po tayo magsimula sa ating talk ngayon, I would like to share again our webinar guidelines para po sa ating lahat ng mga nanonood ngayon. So, let me just open my screen here. Ayan. So, para po sa ating mga nanonood, please make sure that you're watching the live stream via a reliable internet connection. Make sure that you check your audio or wear a nice pair of headphones. And you can also view the YouTube live stream on our Grupo Kalinangan YouTube channel if you have problems watching the Facebook live stream. Also, if you are a registered participant and you are at the GKI PAMANA community Facebook group, make sure that you grant StreamYard permission to see your name at streamyard.com/Facebook. So make sure na pumunta po kayo dito sa link na to. Kung hindi nyo po ito nagawa last week, gawin nyo na po ngayon. This is just a one-time thing. All you need to do is go to this URL, streamyard.com/Facebook, and then just click the button that says, let StreamYard see your Facebook live comments. Importante po na syempre malaman po namin ang inyong pangalan. Instead na makita po namin na Facebook user lang po yung nakikita niya. Syempre maganda rin po na nakikita po namin kung sino po yung nagko-comment, sino po yung nagtatanong, para makilala rin po namin kayo. Ayan. So, para po sa mga nag-register ng mga participants sa ating PAMANA Talks ngayon, make sure, well, aside from, of course, watching through our Facebook live stream and on a YouTube, you can also post your questions to the comment section on the Facebook or YouTube live stream. We'll make sure to accommodate all your questions during the time allotted for the webinar. And if you want to personally ask a question to the speaker via video conference as well, make sure that you check your camera and mic settings so the speaker can see you, and we will post the video conference link on the private Facebook group. Doon po sa GK Pamana Facebook group po natin. Okay? And finally, of course, para po sa mga nag-register, ito, importante po to. Marami po kasi mga nag-i-email sa amin kung saan po saan po mag-fill out ng evaluation form, paano po makukuha ang kanilang e-certificate. So, inulit po namin, to get your PAMANA e-talk certificate of participation via email, make sure that you fill out the evaluation form. The link to the evaluation form will be posted on the GKI PAMANA Community Facebook group a few minutes after the webinar ends. And finally, let's create a culture of sharing, have fun, and share the live stream to your family and friends. Okay? So, ayan. So, maraming salamat po ulit sa inyong pagtangkilik. Let's also say hello to our friends, Isaiah Jim Torillos from Catanduanes. Wow, ang layo po na narating ng ating PAMANA Talks. Also, Miss Vanessa Afable from Cavite City, Kababayan. Also, Rossini Conway, watching from wherever he is. So, ayan po. So, siguro simula na po tayo. Game. So, total na pag-uusapan naman natin ngayon palagi sa heritage, no? G-use. Mga, palagi isa sa mga favorite topics natin sa heritage, yung mga magagandang ancestral houses dito sa sa bansa natin. At isa sa mga magaganda, napakasayang bisitahin palagi itong isang heritage house na dineclare ng NHCP, isang National Heritage House dito sa Metro Manila. Dito lang yung matatagpuan sa Cubao. Ito yung Mira-Nila Heritage House and Library. Nakapunta ka na ba doon, Gius?
Hindi pa.
Cool. Ayan. So you really have to make time very soon. Once, of course, Ay, balita ko, the Interagency Task Force have already approved of reopening
museums.
So expect that these museums, libraries, and historical sites will be open to the public again soon. So it's gonna be an exciting year again for us, PAMANA. So hintayin po natin magbukas ulit ng mga museums na ito. Especially itong Mira-Nila Heritage House. I've been there a good number of times back in 2019. Of course, Grupo Kalinangan, our org there, had done some activities there, one of which was Guhit PAMANA, a PAMANA workshop that we did last June 2019. It was a very memorable time there. Nako, Gius, bukod sa sa kanilang mga yung kanyang natatanging architecture, like yung kanyang mission-style architecture, tsaka yung transition into Art Deco. Kilala rin kasi ang Mira-Nila Heritage House sa kanyang collection sa loob ng bahay na yon, bilang bahay ng isang napaka-influential at mayamaangkan, mga Benitez family, no? Kilala ang Mira-Nila Heritage House sa bilang isang museo na may mga koleksyon ng mga paintings. Marami sa kanila gawa ng mga tanyag na national artists, celebrated painters, no? Ikaw, sa mga pintor nating mga naging national artists, alin sa kanila yung pinakagusto mo?
Pinakagusto, ang hirap mamili kasi parang kailangan mong extensively i-research yung works nila, 'di ba? Yung mga nagawa nila, yung mga, 'di ba, yung story behind yung mga works nila. So pero yung na lang, siguro yung mga gusto kong national artists. Syempre sila Fernando Omar Solo, sila Fabian de la
Oh,
Rosa, yung mga realism to impressionism artists. Mas ano kasi ako mas nandun ako,
okay.
mas na-appreciate ko yung mga realist paintings. Although
I see.
may mga cubism artists tayo like um, sila Cesar Legaspi.
Yes.
Also, of course, si Botong Francisco meron siyang work, yung Struggle of the Filipinos ba yun? Yung mural sa National Museum. I think that's Cubism
Yes.
movement din. So yun.
Mhm.
Sila yung
Actually,
mga...
mhm. I'm a very big fan of Cubism. In fact, my favorite national artists are Manansala and Ang Kyukok.
Mm,
I really enjoy staring at their paintings. No, especially my favorite national artist among all. Of course, Bottom Francisco is really sikat. Pero for
yeah.
me, what really resonates the most are the works of Ang Kyukok from Davao. So, I mean, he has a certain style that he can only
Mm,
capture his own. It's also parang uh, Cubism din yung kanyang dating, but it also has
mm,
various influences and it has
mm,
some certain styles that only he can
mm,
really do. And you know, um, the reason why why we would like this lecture tonight is because this house, no, the Mira-Nila Heritage House is home to so many paintings from various national artists and celebrated artists. I'm sure a lot of our art lovers who are watching today will be very fascinated from the lecture of our speaker today. So we're very honored to have our speaker tonight to give us a lecture about the beautiful paintings of the Mira-Nila Heritage House and Library. So to introduce our speaker today, she has worked in various curatorial and administrative positions for the last 40 years of her career. She worked with the Museum of Philippine Art at the Ayala Museum, sa Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C., sa Metropolitan Museum of Art, the Center for African Art. She also worked at the Museum of Modern Art in New York, and she was
wow.
also an editor for the Arts and Cultures magazine, and also a curator at the Barbier Museum in Geneva until 2007. She was also a former president of the Museum Foundation of the Philippines from 2010 to 2013. And currently, she is the trustee of the boards of Unlad Development Resources, the Calao Ledesma Foundation, the Lopez Family of Balayan Foundation, and of course, the Benitez-Tirona Mira-Nila Foundation, the foundation behind the Mira-Nila Heritage House and Library and Pavilion. She's currently working as a professorial lecturer at the University of the Philippines Diliman in art history. And of course, she is the founding archivist and curator of the Mira-Nila Heritage House and Library in the Mira-Nila Heritage House in Quezon City. So tonight, we're very honored to have tonight to do a lecture on the paintings and the painting collections of the Mira-Nila Heritage House. Let's welcome Miss Betty Benitez-Johannot. Where she's calling right now all the way from Switzerland. Good morning sa iyo
Hi,
po
ma'am.
dyan.
Good morning po.
Good morning sa inyong lahat. Thank you for having me. What a pleasure to see all your members from north to south. I'm thrilled that GKI has such a vast reach and that there's interest in this small museum. Honored din kami. Salamat.
Maraming salamat rin po. Kamusta po kayo dyan sa Switzerland? I know it's not really a good time to be there. I think everyone is, but how are you doing?
Well, we're doing fine, my husband and I. I'm heading back to Manila end of March. Our classes begin 1st of March sa UP. But really doesn't matter where you're giving your class. Walang face-to-face.
Mhm.
Okay. But I'm
So
heading
I
home
suppose,
end of March.
wow,
I'm
we're
really
really
looking
looking forward
forward.
to,
Mm.
we're looking forward to. Um, I think you've been busy for the last few months. Of course, teaching online to your students in UP Diliman. Um, so I suppose when you come home here at March, we'll expect you to start, being more active in in the Mira-Nila Heritage House and Library, and continue your work there. I know the Heritage House and Library was opened quite recently, about a little over 2 years ago. So, how is it going now? I mean, what are siguro before we start our lecture, how is the museum right now?
Yeah. Well, right now, like all cultural spaces, we're still closed. We opened quite recently, as you said. So officially, actually, December of 2018. Pero sunod-sunod na yon by January 2019, one after the other. We had so many tours. Really happy that we were covered well, and which is why I want to share our short tip with you at the end of my talk on one of the it was Metro style Metro home channel that covered us, but all the
Mhm.
major networks covered. So it was a really nice exposure for Mira-Nila. Siguro a reflection of how people thirst, for heritage and for old homes visit in Metro Manila. So very accessible kasi kami, nasa Cubao lang kami, beside Kramen.
Mhm.
And you don't have to go far, no? Traffic nga lang. Pero meron kaming mga parking, ganon. So right now, we're surviving. We're able to pay our staff because one of our little buildings there is open for events. Kaya kung meron kayong mga wedding na ipinapan o birthdays, yun pwede. Hindi kami pwedeng magpasok sa museum, pero meron kaming special event space. Padalawang gardens, meron kaming chapel. So we're really blessed with space and can maintain our premises open for that. It helps sustain us.
And we're looking forward to the reopening of the Mira-Nila Heritage House and Library and Pavilion very soon. Siguro we just have to wait for the final approval from the president. The IADF had already announced that they are approving the reopening of the museums, libraries, and historical sites around the Philippines very soon. So let's wait for that. Well, let's go to the gist of your of tonight's episode, and we're very excited now to see your lecture. So I shall be sharing my screen now. Siglit. Let me just I will just share my screen. 1 second. Um,
Magandang
okay.
trial run through ito para sa
So
akin.
let me lang
Okay.
uh, 1 second. I'm just okay. There you go. Okay. Uh, let's start.
From the top, siguro, from the top.
Okay, there
Yeah.
you go.
Well, this is a good
Okay.
opportunity for me to have organized. Joel, thank you very much for inviting me. Na-organize bigla yung aking slides to talk about art in Mira-Nila Heritage House and Library as a form of talking about the development of modern art in the Philippines. So I try to do that when I do the tours, pero alam mo naman, when you're going from room to room, you cannot be as organized. But when you're going from slide to slide, mas madali, to talk about the development of modernism in the Philippines. And so I start with this slide, which is just to really establish, sino ba yung, who are the people behind this home? There were 5 who moved into it in 1932. It was built in 1929. At saka na makita nyo sa screen niyo si Francisca, si Conrado, at saka yung tatlong anak nila, si Helena, si Tomas, yung father ko, at saka si Alfred. And I mentioned it was declared natural, cultural heritage house because of the pioneer resident who lived there. They were quite the leader in civic activities in in the Philippines through the 20s, 30s until the 70s and 80s. No, it was also built in a very distinct style, as Joel mentioned. It still had one foot in very kind of traditional home. No, it's called the California Mission Revival, and also so I'm told that it was declared a heritage house because the Japanese lived there during the occupation period in 45, and then of course after that the many political and socio-cultural events that happen in the house. Really, it's one of the few homes from the 20s that have survived and have kept its furniture from the past, art from the past. And so the foundation that runs it is very happy to make it accessible to the public. Ng app namin, si Helena, open it up to the public. So that's what we're doing. And hopefully sooner rather than later. Well, we go to the next slide. Can we do the next slide, please? Next. Sorry, Joel? Excuse me.
Yeah. Is this the right slide? Sorry.
Can we do the next slide, please?
We're just having an
I apologize. There's some technical glitch. Maybe I'm not.
Can you
connected.
see the slide? We're at the 18th and 19th century paintings.
I put these slides together because it just shows you how signatures mark a canvas. They're in front or behind. In the way that heritage objects mark the time or the period and why people collect and why. When I talk about paintings in the collection, I start with pottery, because pottery is painted. And so it's not just the two-dimensional canvases, but we have the oldest painting evidence in the Philippines was actually 3,000. Sorry, can you do the one before 2,000 or 3,000 years ago? You know, you all remember in the old 1,000 peso of painting in the Philippines in a secondary burial jar, and you have that in the National Museum. I put it there just as an instance to show that tradition in the Philippines goes back to 3,000 years old. And it was not on any two-dimensional plane, it was on pottery. And then we go to the pottery that came straight from Southeast Asia and China. And so you have an example of that I show you in the screen. Although, what I have to go with the pottery. Well, sorry. Well,
Yes. Is this the right slide?
the screen before, the slide before.
This one? Sorry, which slide po?
In the pottery screen, once we get to it, you will see pottery from show the galleon trade that we had between the Philippines and Mexico. You know, we were a province of Mexico, and so all Acapulco through the galleon trade. And then, oh, weird again. We need to do the pot. Yes, and then you have then you have the pottery, the tea set, the pottery, the pottery, the one before this. That's it. So this is Imari ceramic because I had traded from a port in Japan called Imari. It's now called Arita. Anyway, these are sort of things that people who love pottery will know. And then, of course, the most updated painting we have on pottery is one by Romulo Gallicano, Madonna of the Flowers, de las Flores, which is here. So this is a gamut of painting that we see on pottery years in the Philippines. I put here an example of this palayok that was archaeologist who discovered the Manunggul jar in the Tabon Cave complex in Lupuan Bay in Palawan. So he gave her this museum that is for 14th and 15th century. So you can see it's not painted, no? But I wanted you to see that we had some other pottery also, which I didn't get to show. But that's one of the most ubiquitous or the most dominant form of pottery that you see all over the Philippines and all over Southeast Asia. So that kind of pottery goes back, it's called the calabash style or type, goes back to 4,000 years ago. No? So we have a good we have a good tradition of pottery, of painting on pottery. Okay, Joel, the next slide, please. Joel, the next slide, please. Joel, when we get the painting on wood, which is early 19th century, I'm going to call Joel by cell phone. Hindi yata nagkakaintindihan sa ano because of the technical glitch. So the next wave of types of painting was what the
Yeah.
Hispanics
Miss
what the
Betty,
Spanish
let's
friars taught Filipinos. You know,
yeah.
they came in with their catechism and their doctrine, and they wanted Filipinos to learn, you know, about their faith. And the best way to do it was to train Filipinos from stampitas that they brought in and from books. So that was transferred to wood, and these wooden panels would show you the paintings done for devotion. No, usually in small shrines, altars at home. Next, I would say a group of paintings in our collection, which would show paintings by the locals, would be the Pais, or the kinds of paintings that were done to collect them into books and to sell them as souvenirs, as books or singly. Nako, nawala na yung ating example.
Yeah, hold on.
We
Let
have
me. We're just
Justiniano Asuncion,
1 second. 1 second.
painter from that period, and he did a series of del Pais, are types of the country, a country where you would have
All right. We're having some difficulties.
sorry, Joel, I don't
Yeah.
see the examples. I
Okay.
guess we're
Hold on. Okay.
having problems with GKI. What
Okay.
you see would be local wear. The one on the left, I believe, is a woman. Typical Tagalog, that would be a man wearing a raincoat made of um, um, natural fiber against the rain. He's wearing a salakot. Um, it's, were made into these watercolors were made into print, and well, it would be the print, no? It would be the print. The next one after that, and they would, in fact, be a souvenir of the people in that area. So foreigners who would come would bring them home, or people actually studying uh, um, uh, costumes and what to provide in the trade, not the kind of garments, the kinds of textiles to provide for the making of garment. It would be useful for them. Sorry, Joel, can I have the slide after that? Del Pais o Fusti Asuncion. I guess we're going slower than what we expected because of this technical glitches. Justiniano Asuncion was one of the earlier artists we had who were trained by not by friars, this time by schools, proper schools that that where students were taught to how to the human scale, the human face. So they were taught that. But Justiniano Asuncion called the Capitan King. Capitan made his mark. I don't know what's going on. Joel, we're not seeing the slide.
Yeah,
Okay.
can you see the slide now?
So you can see Capitan King. Capitan King
We're having
there,
yeah,
no?
we're the sound is
And these
muffled
kinds
lang.
of this genre of painting identified and stratified locals. Stratified because you could see these locals from Manila or the suburb or the surroundings of Manila, as opposed to the mestizos. Inhabitants of Manila. Here on the right, we have a print from the collection showing much view of a Filipina. No, this is a later. You can see it's a bit then this more and definitely 19th century print. Can we have the next slide, Joel? The next slide, please. Nako, baka mag 2 hours tayo dito. Sir na lang. Can we have the next slide, please?
Yeah, the slides are there.
Okay. Just to a little bit more. Capitan King was a okay. All right. So here's a good example from that genre of painters. No. Now we have prints as an example of souvenirs that people take. Artilleria, where armories, where bullets are kept, and all that. Okay. The next one would be portraits of family. Okay, and we were very fortunate to have two portraits in Mira-Nila. One on the left is actually a copy, not the original, a copy of Antonio Hernandez Malantic, 1876 portrait. She was from Pagsanghan, and this portrait was commissioned by her father, who asked Malantic to come and stay with them. Finish artists were trained in academies. You can see they're a little bit more sophisticated than the earlier Justiniano Asuncion ones. Here you have a little bit more depth, a little bit more for his miniature, not miniatures like the Cameo miniatures, but the miniature treatment of calado, of upper garments like that. 5 from her family. Her father, her Ilao Francia, her mother, Teresa Fernandez Francia, her older brother, Puento, herself, Soledad, and her younger sister, Inocencia. But because of the towns in Metro Manila, in fact, during the retaking of the Philippines, the Francis house and all the lunas and of Malantic, of Soledad and Inocencia were given away to her children. And so they were not in that house and they were saved. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas has declared paintings in the Philippines. My father had this copied from the original. He wanted a copy in Mira-Nila of his grandmother. That was his grandmother. And so it stays just by the piano. You see a painting that was done in 1899 by Simon de la Rosa Flores of Judge Higinio Benitez. Sorry, we're not yet finished with Simon Flores. Simon Flores, Simon Flores was the one before, the tall one. It was commissioned Benitez. We cannot go back anymore, no? That's okay, but that was an important painting. Can we go back to the one previous?
Take a look.
Can we go back to the previous one, Joel?
Which one are you referring to?
Right,
the one by Simon Flores?
So we have those two important paintings. You will see them prominently displayed. We have paintings. They're not shown together, but they show that the three civic servants in the family, Higinio Benitez, they helped write the Constitution in 1898. We have the portrait of Conrado in the middle, who helped write. He was one of the 7 drafts of the Constitution in the 1971 Constitutional Convention. We don't have a portrait of him that's nice enough to display, so we have savings. We'll maybe get a portrait of him done. Can we do the next slide, please? Joel, can we do the next slide? Can we do the next slide, Joel?
Here. Can you see the slide now?
In fact, about this, but there are some other slides that we would like to get to. This was done on the left by Ricardo B. Enriquez, and the one in the middle by the same man. He was, in fact, most of the paintings come from WU former faculty. We should go in advance. It's okay. No, I'm finished with this. I'm finished with the next one, and so it should be the next one. 2 slides after this.
Okay.
Okay. The one after this. Thank you.
Okay.
After this, Joel. Next
Hold
one.
on. We're. Let me just fix something lang. 1 second. 1 second. We're just having some difficulties at the moment.
Okay.
Because of some.
Okay. Yes. Of paintings done. Yes, I can see it. Francisca Tirona Benitez University. So you can see a variety of styles. The oldest one being the one in the middle, Francisca in green, done in 1930s. I'm still researching by some leading painter, but I'm still concluding my studies on that. The one in the middle is by this is Roberto B. Enriquez, also a former faculty member of PWU. Okay.
Okay. Hold on. This is the reason why we need to have.
Well, this is a good chance for me to invite people to come to the museum and see it for real.
Yes.
You will have furniture and architectural details that we don't actually, as Joe will we do.
Okay. I think what we can do is we can just okay. What we're gonna do right now is we will show instead a video. The video will be will I think it will be a lot more appreciated by our viewers right now. So I will just share the video, and let's while we're fixing
whatever you think is
while we're fixing the slides, we will resume after the video has ended. So we'll show a video first. 1 second. Okay.
Ancestral homes are filled with rich culture and history. But in this case, Mira-Nila, the ancestral home of the Benitezes, is filled with a rich Philippine history.
Art, academe, and politics all come together in this family and their home. Today, we get a special inside look at the wonderful stories as Petty Benitez, the person who catalogs these treasures, graciously shows us around.
Morning.
Hi, Petty.
Hi.
Thank you for welcoming us into this beautiful home.
So you're gonna be giving us an inside look of Mira-Nila
Yes,
today.
I'm excited to do that. I know you've been looking at some books.
Yes, I actually saw the home.
You've been sporadically featured in various different articles and books, but now we're really open to the public. What you see here would be about more than 100 years worth of furniture collecting.
Wow. I'm so curious to see each and every piece because I'm sure they have a lot of stories.
You have 2 weeks to do that.
Yeah, I will make my time and give you 2 weeks for that.
We all learned to play the piano here. I call this spot the music alcove, precisely because we have a portrait here, originally painted by Antonio Malandic, a leading 19th century painter. And this is actually a copy.
And I can imagine all the special occasions here.
That is my dream, to open up the house again for that purpose. The family's roots come from Pagsanghan, Laguna. The 3 women in the family. The second, aside from Soledad Francia, would be Francisca Benitez, who actually designed the house. She made it right alongside an architect, Gregorio Paredes. Her sisters, the Tirona sisters, came home and they showed her these magazines and she fell in love with these Florentine houses. So it's not Spanish inspired, it is Florentine.
It's more Florentine.
So we have 2 portraits of her there, Francisca from the 30s and Francisca in the 70s. She founded the Philippine Women's University where she was president for 45 years. The other person I speak about in this nook would be Helena Benitez, the last resident here, and she founded the Bayanihan, Philippine National Dance Company.
My mom used to dance for the Bayanihan.
Excellent!
And, she toured Europe with them.
Yes? Wonderful, wonderful.
There's a lot of women power here.
Well, the women were very active, but the men were quietly in there
In the
and
background,
active as
but
well.
supportive.
Which was why my next stop would be the men
Okay.
in the family. We go to the library.
Wow, Petty, I really love the detail of each and every piece here.
And all handcrafted.
These are quite interesting. I love the details, how this thing curves.
Those furnitures from Paete, Paquil, 19th century, these are definitely 20th century. Jose Abad Santos, who was our neighbor, did some prison reform in Manila Bilibid Prison, and one of them was create a workshop and then train the carpenter, train them to be master carpenters.
Okay, yeah.
So Manolo Quezon said, if you have good furniture you're looking for, you go to the Bilibid prisons. We highlighted 3 women. We have 3 men here. They're all constitutionalists. So Eugenio Benitez was a judge. He was a delegate from Laguna to the Malolos 1898 Constitutional Convention. This particular frame and this whole suite of shelves were done to encase the books and the artwork. And it's a memorial in a way. The second Constitutional Convention, 1935, Conrado Benitez, one of his 3 sons, became a delegate also. And then the third was my father, Tomas, who was a career ambassador. One motion that he was able to pass was to ask the delegates to make, as a policy, the Philippines as neutral. So not so close to the United States, not so close to Russia or China. That was embedded in our 1972 Constitution. Fourth,
These
actually.
are the
These are the
records of
papers,
such,
yeah. My mother had them published. It's his papers on neutrality.
Your family
Diverse
has such
background.
a colorful history.
I think our educational system really equipped us for that. The women were very firm in what they wanted. The men didn't stand in their way.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
They did their own thing too. So they complemented
Yeah, they all
each other.
supported each other.
Yeah.
The 2 rooms that we visited, very important in the home because it really highlights the foundation, at least the people behind Mira-Nila, right?
That's a good point. I never thought of it that way, but it's a good way to give a foundation to a tour. I wanted to draw your attention to the screen with 49 women doing their various different things. It's a Chinese screen, and Helena purchased that. When she took over the house from her parents, she started bringing in her taste. Hers was much more, how can you say, exotic. You know, the chinoiserie, the orientalia came in.
And the big jars, I guess, are also
from Aling Biring, from Little Baguio.
Yes, from Jolisa.
Jolisa,
Yeah.
Mrs. De Assis. They were good friends.
It was nice how she did infuse her own taste.
This little room, a mannequin that uses the gown of Helena while she was Girl Scouts of the Philippines president, and then her uniform. She was big on God, country, and home. And we entered the small dining room where there are a lot of objects that I can speak about, but I think you might be interested in the details.
Yes, look at these vitrines.
So the vitrines, the stained glass windows, are actually most definitely inspired by the Freemason, you know, the 2 compasses that come together and with the eye in the middle for the Freemason
Correct.
symbol. Conrado was a staunch Freemason. He headed the movement in the Philippines for many years.
So this would have been their main dining room?
Yes, this rather large table is one piece. You could see it's a large piece of trunk. This was where meetings were held.
And I love the tall, tall ceilings. The actual size of the rooms are not as grand as what they make today, I think.
Right,
As what they build today. But the ceiling height,
But there's a lot
It's
of gracious
very-
proportions still that you can feel.
through the height, I think, more than anything else. I love this pendant.
This is a Lalique crystal chandelier, which I understand is quite rare. The other 2 pieces they said which were quite valuable for them in their eyes are these 2, what we call Sheraton
Sheraton style
altar pieces.
Yes, with the inlay.
With the inlay. It's from Baliwag, Bulacan, inlaid
Correct.
with, as you know, this Carabao bone.
Yes.
And what about the art?
We're very fortunate to have 3 pieces here that speak a little bit about the development of modern art. Diosdado Lorenzo, who came to the
Yes,
Philippines
yeah.
in the 30s, he introduced modernism 10 years after Victoria Edades. And he was helped by Francisca and the Tirona sisters to find a house in Manila.
Oh, wow.
So to thank her, he painted her portrait together with her younger son. It's called Garden of the Sick. And that's from 1937. And then you have 2 paintings there. Also,
These
2
seem more
different
modern,
strains.
yes.
Yeah. 2 very different strains of Philippine painting. One classical, which
Yes.
was Fernando Amorsolo,
Yes.
Painted in 1953. And then Helena, 10 years later,
Oh, they also Helena.
by Macario Vitalis,
Yes, yeah,
who
yeah.
was our Filipino painter painting out of Paris.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm a fan of Vitalis. I like
You
his
are.
work. Yeah.
So he painted her rare because the one that compasses that come together and with the eye in the middle for the Freemason
Correct.
symbol. Conrado was a staunch Freemason. He headed the movement in the Philippines for many years.
So this would have been their main dining room?
Yes, this rather large table is one piece. You could see it's a large piece of trunk. This was where meetings were
inlay.
held.
And I love the tall, tall ceilings. The actual size of the rooms are not as grand as what they make today, I think.
Right,
As what they
yes,
build today.
yeah.
But the ceiling height,
But there's a lot
It's
of gracious
very-
proportions still that
still,
you can feel.
through the height, I think, more than anything else. I love this pendant.
This is a Lalique crystal chandelier, which I understand is quite rare. The other two pieces they said which were quite valuable for them in their eyes are these two, what we call Sheraton outer
Sheraton style.
Sheraton style outer pieces.
Yes, with the inlay.
With the inlay, it's from Baliwag, Bulacan, inlaid
Correct.
with, as you know, this Carabao bone.
Yes.
And what about the art?
We're very fortunate to have three pieces here that speak a little bit about the development of modern art. Diosdado Lorenzo, who came to the
Yes,
Philippines
yeah.
in the 30s, he introduced modernism 10 years after Victoria Edades. And he was helped by Francisca and the Tirona sisters to find a house in Manila.
Oh, wow.
So to thank her, he painted her portrait together with her younger son. It's called Garden of the Sick. And that's from 1937. And then you have two paintings there, also
These
two
seem more
different
modern,
strains.
yes.
Yeah, two very different strains of Philippine painting. One classical, which was
Yes.
Fernando Amorsolo, painted in 1953. And then
do.
Helena, 10 years later,
Oh, this
painted
is also Helena.
by Macario Vitalis,
Yes, yeah,
who
yeah.
was our Filipino painter painting out of Paris.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm a fan of Vitalis. I like
You
his
are.
work. Yeah.
So he painted her rare because the paintings that you have at the Lopez, at the National Museum, are usually landscapes or urbanscapes. We're very, very lucky to have a portrait by him. So we're entering our large dining room. This is where the family ate Sunday lunches, and this is where Helena kept her pottery from Mexico. An interesting piece here is at the end of the large dining room, we have a Carlos Boto Francisco mural, and Helena purchased that from her friends. We have a chapel, and we have a mass there, and then we would have
Okay.
our meal here after.
It's nice to keep some of these traditions alive.
Yes, yes. On the second floor, you have 4 rooms.
Then you also have that beautiful
The reading room, absolutely, yes. This is where most of the research and writing was done. We had the librarian, Delia Pineda. She was here for 35 years.
Wow.
And because of her, the card file, the card catalog is very complete. Last year, we hired 3 librarians to do nothing but put it online and have it accessible to the younger generation. So we have
Super.
books from the 19th century all the way to the 1990s. This is the master bedroom.
Wow, look at these beds.
We have 2 beds here. By far, the most precious to Helena are 3 pieces of furniture that happen to be in this master bedroom. This desk, the dresser, and the tocador. She had this typed antique writing desk and drawers belong to Mama B. That is what in PWU they call Francisca. Daddy B for Conrado. Yeah. She bought this and later the dresser with her prize money from the Rizal Day essay writing contest. 150 pesos. She was able to buy these 3 pieces.
How sweet.
Helena was very conscious of what she wanted to do with the house and the contents. So we're just really following through what she wanted to happen.
How inspiring to be here.
I'm an art historian, you see, so objects for me have lives. And if we can make that come alive for other people, then they learn about their past as well. So
I
I'm
really
happy.
think that you did this so graciously and beautifully. What makes you most proud of Mira-Nila?
I think the coming together of cousins and siblings to try to get this done the way Tita Helen wanted it.
Congratulations, because this is such a beautiful home.
Well, thank you on behalf of the family and the foundation.
And thank you for having us.
My pleasure.
Yeah. Okay. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. We're very, very sorry about the technical difficulties earlier, but we do hope that you're still with us. And we're going to resume the lecture right now. Do we still have Betty with us? Hello, Miss Betty.
Yes, I'm here. Hi.
Hi. Okay. I think we just have a bit of a lag from here to Switzerland. So we'll just ensure that we can follow with you or follow your pace. So we'll proceed with the rest of your lecture, okay?
You want me to use my PowerPoint myself?
Pwede,
So I
sige
can,
po,
I
sige
can
po. Okay, just click the share button. Let's see if you can.
it's open. I am so sorry. I'm okay.
Okay, we'll just
All right. Are you see it?
okay. We're just waiting for the slides
You,
to open.
you see it? You see my slides?
Mm, not
Do you see my
really.
slides?
No.
Okay.
We'll just share ours na lang po.
I don't know how
Stop
to
sharing na
share
lang
it.
po. Yeah, just stop sharing. Stop sharing na lang. We will be the ones to share.
Okay. So I stop cam. No.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, I'm out of it. I'm out of it. Right? Yeah.
All right.
So let's try have a go. Okay.
Yes. Let's resume. Can you see our slides now?
Yes. Let's go to the next one. Next, please. Next, please, Joel. Joel, next,
Gius, next slide, please.
Gius, next, please. Okay. Portraiture is something that many families wanted to have, as we ourselves like having pictures of our families. So during the time 1915 to 1925 in the West, photography became quite more accessible. But people wanted their photography painted upon. So that was what you called oleografico. And in the Mira-Nila, we have 3 examples of oleografico, hand-colored photographs that were painted upon. So you have Helena on the left and on the right, and in the middle her mother Francisca. The National Museum has a corner of oleografico, beautiful portraits. So that was very much in vogue. In 1929, with the crash of the market, less and less people were able to really focus on that kind of portraiture, but it continued in the Philippines. So these ones, I would say, came from the 30s. And so we're fortunate to have 3 examples of them. Next, please, Jules. Can we do the next slide, please? I put together some portraits done of Helena from 1933. There's a 43 one, which I can show you later, but there's a 1933, a 1953, and an early 1970s. It could have been 1973. It shows you different styles of painting. The 33 one was painted by Anita Magsaysay Ho. At the time, she was Anita Corpus Magsaysay, a classmate of Helena, later fine arts under Solo. So you have a beautiful pastel of Helena here, and then on the left you saw it earlier in the video, a 1953 paint Helena in the pink terno. And on the right, a more hyper-realistic kind of painting of Helena by Eli R. Gaston. I know he was living in Italy. I cannot find Filipino who Helena met, and then he painted her when he came back to the Philippines. So you have three different styles, no? Of and then hyper realistic or super realistic style. The next one, please. Next slide, please. The next slide, please. Juice. Can we have the next slide, please? Excuse me, I'm just telling the next slide using my cell phone. Next slide, please, Juice. Okay, Diosdado Lorenzo, guardian of the sick on the left. And then Diosdado Lorenzo, two boys cockfighting under a tree. The one on the left comes from 1934 when Diosdado Lorenzo returned Italy with his Italian wife. And as I mentioned in the video, Francisca and her Tirona sisters helped Diosdado Lorenzo get find and purchase a house in Manila, and they continue to live there, the Lorenzo family. So to thank them, he painted this Garden of the Sick. Alfredo was in a wheelchair. He died after the war. He was rather sickly. And the one on the right are two boys playing having a fight with these roosters. Father Lorenzo was one of the many professors at UST who were teaching painting, and UST became a bastion for modernism, because of just of Victorio Edades, who started to teach there, and he got other faculty, like-minded faculty, to teach with him. And UP, paradoxically, was a bastion of classicism. Fabian de la Rosa, Amorsolo, Fernando Amorsolo, his nephew, and all the other professors after him were painting in the classical style. So you have this tension between modernism and classicism, finding its differences all the way it's taught. So next one, please, Jules. I can speak a little bit about the style of Diosdado Lorenzo, which is not as outlined and distinct as the classical paintings of Amorsolo and his ilk, because modernism is more about the interaction, paint on canvas, the thumbprint of the artist on. So hindi, as you would say, plido, pero maraming expression. And you get a more lifelike feeling, flesh. Whereas with Amorsolo, it's bland on painting from the photo. You kind of get the feeling. Slide, please. By the way, Diosdado Lorenzo's bust here. He had a retrospective exhibition a few years ago, and this portrait, double portrait was used. Okay, next slide.
Miss Patty, hello? We're still here? Can you still see our slides? Yeah.
Okay, thank you for showing the next slide. As I mentioned, UP was a bastion for classical painters, and the uncle and mentor of Fernando Amorsolo was Fabian Cueto de la Rosa. Um, and he was the first dean of the College of Fine Arts at UP. He was dean, I believe, from 1910. He started to teach there in 1910, and he became a dean, I think, 27 to 37. So he overlapped with Conrado. Who was also dean of Arts College, and then he was the founding dean for the College of Business. So magkakilala sila. And I saw this painting behind a door in Conrado's office on the second floor of Mira-Nila, and I said, oh, itong painting na ito, it's been there forever, no, for a long time. And I looked at it, oh my goodness, sabi ko, kay Fabian de la Rosa pala. Quite a famous painter, quite an established name, and I was so happy. And I looked behind, and there was a painting of a young man. So this is what was behind, naka-masking na ganon. I don't dare take out the mask. Baka matanggal yung paint. So we will restore that when we have a little bit of extra funds. But this is a man wearing pants with a hunting long gown. And perhaps even in Diliman, Diliman in UP was called Diliman kasi madilim sa UP, no? Maraming talahib. It was not a lot of trees, but maraming talahib, So maybe they also would go hunting for birds. I don't know, but this is Fabian de la Rosa. From that time, he was dean of the College of Arts. This is called Portrait of Mang Moneng. Mang Moneng. I don't know. Maybe he was a custodial staff or someone like that in the college. But how it ended up with Conrado and in his office, I don't know. Baka he was gifted by Fabian Cueto de la Rosa. Okay, next slide, please. Next slide, please.